Is there a remote box for this location? So how would it get reinforced? What would be the reinforcement actions? Gosh. Maybe just leave a microphone up there. What?
It's my pleasure to call to order the Peoria Public School Board of Education meeting for September 27, 2021 to order. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costin, Mr. Halls, Mr. Murphy,
Here.
Dr. Michael, here, Mr. Shaw,
Here.
Mrs. Ross, here, President Wilson,
Here.
we have 7 present.
Thank you. Would you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Moving on to announcements, we will start with Mr. Mike Murphy.
FAFSA application opens October 1st. High school seniors and parents, the FAFSA application for 2022-2023 year opens on October 1st. All seniors must, is this a little bit better? Okay. All seniors must complete the FAFSA application to graduate. The sooner your FAFSA is completed, the better. Many financial aid opportunities, including the Illinois MAP grant, are given on first come, first served basis. For questions on completing FAFSA information, please contact your guidance counselor. Thank you.
High school midterms begin Monday, October 11th. Please encourage your high school students to take advantage of after-school tutoring in the coming weeks.
Wednesday, September 29th is a sick day and a half day for students. Students on the first tier schedule will dismiss at 10:30 a.m. Schools on the second tier schedule will dismiss at 11:20 a.m. and schools on third tier schedule will dismiss at 12:10 p.m.
Friday, October 1st is School Custodian Appreciation Day. During the pandemic, PBS school custodians have worked even more diligently than usual to keep our buildings clean and safe for students and staff. Please remember to thank your school custodian this Friday.
Upcoming intersection. Gillespie Hinton Early Childhood Education Center and Knoxville Center for Student Success begins their fall intersection on Monday, October 4th. Harrison Community Learning Center begins their 2-week fall intersection on Monday, October 11th.
The IB application is available online. Information on the Richwoods High School International Baccalaureate Program and the program application are now available on the Richwoods High School website. A parent meeting about the IB program will be held at Richwoods High School on Tuesday, October 12th.
PPS Foundation Classroom and STEM Grant Application. Teachers, Friday, October 1st is the application deadline for the PPS Foundation Classroom Grant Program. Teachers and staff can be awarded up to $1,000 for classroom grants. 5th through 12th grade teachers can be awarded up to $1,500 for STEM grants. For more information, please visit the PPS Foundation website.
Health requirements due October the 15th. The state of Illinois requires all immunizations and physical, dental, and vision exams to be completed by Friday, October the 15th. Kindergarten, 2nd grade, 6th grade, 9th grade, and 12th grade students all have specific immunization and exam requirements that must be completed by October the 15th in order for your student to continue attending school. If you haven't yet, please schedule an appointment to complete these health requirements immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gossett.
I'd like to just kind of have the audience look behind me here. Welcome to Harrison, this beautiful artwork that our remarkable students have done for us for today's meeting. Next on the agenda, we have student showcase from Dr. Nicole Wood, Mrs. Fabian Daniels, and Dr. Francisco Marchand.
Good evening, President Wilson, Vice President Ross, Superintendent Dr. Karan, and members of the board. Thank you so much, first of all, for being here in Harrison tonight. This is so exciting, and thank you to our very proud principal, Mrs. Fabian Daniels, for arranging this. It's just beautiful. And the artwork, we have a very special presentation for you tonight with our scholars, but I'm not going to spoil all that. I'd like our principal, Mrs. Daniels, to introduce her students and staff and tell you about the presentation. Thank you, and welcome to Harrison City Learning Center, where we pride ourselves on being the pride of the South Side and the home of the home. I am the proud principal, Mrs. Fabian Daniels. It is a privilege and an honor today to introduce you to Dr. Marchand, who is our orchestra director. Dr. Marchand today is performing for you will be our beginning 4th grade student. This is their first time ever performing and also their first year in orchestra. So you're going to be pleasantly surprised at their talent. In addition, we will have our 6th grade orchestra group also present to you today. So welcome to Harrison and sit back and enjoy Dr. Marchand.
Members of the board, thank you so much for keeping us alive. You know how many students I have had who wanted to play orchestra in more affluent districts, and they don't have a. And you provide that opportunity for them. As the title says, we are the pride of the South. Absolutely we are. And when you see this group, I want to show you them in any place and look sound as good as the rest. The other thing I want to tell you, they are not going, they have not been playing even for 1 month, probably 3 weeks. What happened is that I started them, and when I see this beautiful group, I said, this is one of the best groups I have had. I think the world needs to see them. I don't know if you're here today, but it's a very good group. The last thing I want to tell you is this. They are not going to play something spectacular, but they are not going to be years to years. You know the proverbial beginner string song. No, they don't have that because they are trained in the professional violin training. Everything is going to be done with the highest rigor. Even if you play a note, has to be with the proper form and with the proper sound and everything. And so, if they play that note in New York, nobody can say what I did. So, no more words, and let's have the fourth grade, no, let's say, the Buchler orchestra, because all these students are on the group of this book. Without their cooperation, they will not be here. I'm forgiving my daughter and helping put them together in 3 minutes. Thank you.
And up next, we have our sixth graders that will be coming down as well.
It's good to have a daughter who plays the instrument and see what happens at the class. If you can describe a teacher in one word, it's flexible. The sixth grade orchestra is really bigger, but they didn't show. So we need to do with ones are here.
So, moving forward, we have, public announcements, or public presentations. So our first, speaker will be, presentation by audience are limited to 5 minutes. We ask that you keep them constructive. Our first presentation will be from Mr. Terry Knapp.
This is the budget part of this. Yes, following up on Friday's meeting, congratulations, I thought it was outstanding. Of course, everything outstanding here. I want to mention something. I wore this shirt today because the shirt is for a team I coached 26 years ago. They won state championships, won undefeated in Chicago, traveled all over the country. The worst player on my team got 12 years in the NBA, every player got a full ride. And he had been back in town, had dinner, and had been down at the Civic Center with Big Mike Robinson for Winter's induction into the Hall of Fame, because Big Mike made them by playing against them when they were in high school. Okay, these guys are all over the country. They're millionaires, they're very successful business people. And the point is, Anybody know where you can see Central was the two-peat state champion, or any of the other champions throughout the district that have run culinary arts on Twitter, for example, 3 state championships. Where is it advertised? Is it advertised somewhere? Because I don't see it. And anybody? And if we don't go our court enough, is what I'm saying. We've got to do a better job of recognizing kids. Just like this. These kids will remember this forever. This night, they will remember this forever. Believe it or not. Because I was in grade school once and did something like this at Woodward, and I went to Longfellow. Never forgot it. I can't play, I can't sing, I can't do anything musically, can't do drama, but I admire people who can, and they need to be celebrated. And if we did a little more celebrating, we'd have fewer fights. If we did the Fine Arts High School in Central, we put $1.5 million in the Central for Fine Arts High School. The dance studio alone was $1 million, and we don't even dance anymore in the Central. We don't. The band doesn't even march. 25 kids in the band. Fine Arts High School in Peoria can't even compete across the river with Morton and Metamora and Pekin and Limestone and all these teams have major marching bands. Our kids can't even march. They can't even play. Manual, and I love it. But you go to the last parade I was at, Manual had 8 drums. No instrument, 8 drums. How can that happen? How can the public in Peoria allow that to happen? These kids are getting, I'm glad these kids performed. I was impressed. Congratulations to the board for that. But think about what doesn't go on in our community and try to figure out why kids are fighting for attention in school. They're just getting attention. Somebody mentioned in the meeting the other night, the reason why they fight in school is because they know teachers are going to break up. Most of them don't want to fight outside in the front yard or down the street. That's what they do for attention, because they don't get attention any other way. This was a tremendous event right here, and you should all be proud of that. That having been said, I'd just like to thank you again. Jim told me for a minute. I was at a baseball clinic about 2 months ago, and I asked the kids, it was down at across the street from Boston Henry, and I said, how many of you know who Jimmy Tomey is? Out of 20 kids, how many think raise your hands? 2. 2 know who Jim Tomey was, and they're Little League baseball players. We don't celebrate anything. Jim Tomey's picture's up in one place down by Harvard and so forth. This guy is in the Hall of Fame. 600 and some home runs. Top 7 of all time. We don't celebrate Jim Tomey. We should be celebrating because these kids need to be celebrated. They need to be the next violinist supreme or whatever they call the person that's the best violinist. I was proud of the Woodard orchestra. We had a Woodard had an orchestra you couldn't believe it. They had a band with 110 people in it, and we closed it. We closed Woodard so that we could give the charter school to Glenbarg. Charter school to Glenbarg with 300 kids and close the school with 900 kids on the north side and destroy the north side. We'll never get over that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presentation will be from Mr. Charlie Thomas.
Good evening, everyone. This was outstanding, and that band director, orchestra, is top notch. He is a great guy. My wife's talked about him often. Mr. Knapp mentioned Woodruff, and I want to start there. I was at Woodruff at the Safe School. We started the Safe School there. Actually, I was involved in that process, which is kind of cool. Teachers don't get involved with stuff very often. They usually leave it to the chairs over here, and we've seen some of that result. I'm sorry, shout outs. Ben Mahan at Peoria High, great teacher, coach. Shout out to Chief Boone and his staff. I know that was a tough situation over at Peoria High. Shout out to Dr. Perrott, how she handled herself over there, fantastic. And shout out to my favorite custodian of all time, Bob Martin. He's in Richmond now. Woodruff was a great state school. I worked there. The kids were taught by teachers. That's a big thing. And you think, well, of course they're taught by teachers. Well, the new program we have, Game Changers, there are no teachers involved. In fact, I had someone tell me that the only teacher that might be there is a substitute, which might not be qualified to even teach, because our substitutes, we know how hard it is to get, so we've expanded what we can allow to be a substitute teacher, which is the right thing to do. I'm not saying that's wrong, but Game Changers don't have teachers. You know what else they don't have? They don't have uniforms. They don't have to wear uniforms there. You can imagine the kids are just loving that. And this is supposed to be a discipline-oriented place. And I know one thing, I'm going to find a way to get down there for lunch. Because I heard they have Chinese, they have cheeseburgers. I think they're talking about having a cookout and some steak down the road. That's ridiculous. And I'm exaggerating a little, but not much. Not much. They have lunches that our kids would die to have. So what I'm trying to do, I'm painting a picture of what goes on there. I mean, all they're gaining over there is pounds with those meals. My goodness, they're not getting a whole lot of knowledge. And I taught PE. They get PE over there. When I was in state school, those kids had to earn PE. We're talking about kids that were expelled. And as I don't know if any of these kids are expelled. I remember one time, Mrs. Ross would say, no, they got to be expelled. They got to have a place to go. Is this where we're sitting? I don't think they're expelled. At least I don't know what it would be. Is it legal? I don't even know if it's on District 150 property. If it's a real school, there should be teachers there. Simple as that. That's what a school is about. You have teachers that are qualified to teach the kids. So parents, if you have a kid sitting at Game Changers, they're not getting educated by real teachers, just so you know that. And then they come up, you know why we know this? Because they ask teachers for work. They can't, a real teacher creates what they need to teach. These people have no clue. And this is not just me not knowing. I think people that have went there and seen firsthand. Put them on a cellus. That's better than having some of those people try to teach. I tell you what, they're begging to go back to school. Cellus is rough. Talk about something that's not great. And I just don't know, are they suspended? Parents that have someone go to, remember the name, Game Changers. See if they're suspended for real. And it's not on 150 property. I mean, it sounds like the legalities are out the window. I don't know where Tommy might keep this. I'm going to go ahead and jump to this. You know, our teachers this year are taking a beating. I taught 35 years. It was tough. And I noticed towards the end it was getting tougher. But, you want to shout out to every teacher we have who's hanging in there, but they're not hanging in there. Not all of them. Just heard about 2 more that's getting ready to quit mid-year. They can't take it anymore. They have no backup. And, I've known Dr. Karat for a while, and teachers will say, well, it's Dr. Karat's fault. It's this fault. It's this fault. I truly believe, I don't think it's Dr. Karat's fault. I think it's her cabinet's fault. I think Dr. Karat relies on her cabinet too much. I don't know how many cabinet members, well, I know how many. 0 that can go into any classroom and teach right now. Not one of them. Not one. I don't care if they taught before or not. I'm talking about right now. They couldn't have to go in there and teach. They would fall flat on their face. And Glen Oak, you're going to call elite. Well, what's elite do? Kids go to elite and come back worse, is what I'm hearing from the teachers at Glen Oak. I just don't get it. I mean, allow the teachers to teach. You're bogging down with law. Okay, one last thing and I'm done, I promise. Teachers, pick a day. Pick a day. Write up every instance that something is wrong, that doesn't allow you to teach the kids that want to be taught. Send that in to your principal. Everybody, how about Friday? Write them all. There'll be about 450 in about 5 minutes, I'm telling you. The teachers need to be able to teach. Thank you for the extra few seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. It is now 7:00 p.m. and we are at the point in our agenda where we will have the budget here.
Was it
Mr. Mayor?
down?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, thank you again for the opportunity to speak to the budget. Every year I speak to the budget probably twice a year. And things I want to say, again, busing, you can't even be bus drivers. I don't know how we do this every year, and we seem to bus more kids every year than we bus last year. Don't know if that's true or not. Quest, $3.2 million to Quest last year, so we upped it again, didn't even need to give them this year. They, remember, they failed 17 of 19 criteria because they had agreed with the state and with you to reach those goals. 17 out of 19 at Quest were never achieved, not even touched. The special ed was never done by anybody at Quest. They were done by Richwood's teachers for $30 an hour who never even met the kids and did their IEPs. That's illegal. And I don't know how they got by it. They got an extension. Not only did, this looks like the country I'm living in at the national level. Another thing, teachers or administrators, I should say, not living in the district. We're past this. We talked about this about 3 months ago. I want to know what you're going to do about it. When Kay Royster was here, your number 2 person attended a conference down Plain Summer that a teacher had been accused of grabbing a kid by the arm. It cost the district probably, we have $1 million administrators in there. And I could have been representing the teacher. There's a city police officer there. I had to dismiss her because that's none of her business. And at the end of 5 minutes, the thing was over. But the lady who was number 2 called me from the head shed, and she said, Mr. Knapp, she's been here 3 years. She said, I don't know where Blaine Sumner is. Can you tell me where Blaine Sumner is? 3 years. She had a Michigan license plate on her car. Big blue Michigan license plate. Illegal. She was in the state for 3 years with a job in District 150 and have a license plate from Michigan. Didn't even know where Blaine Sumner was. The point is, we got to do something about having people live in Peoria. It doesn't do any good to have administrators in Wharton and Bloomington and Springfield and Germantown. They need to be right here with your kids in this county. I want, every time I could, if they worked at McDonald's, I want some of my kids to work at McDonald's. It was easy for me. I lived in Peoria. I still live in Peoria. I've lived in Peoria 75 years. I'm proud of Peoria. By living out of town, you're telling people you're not very proud of the place where you teach, as far as I'm concerned. Lawyers, the lawyers, now we're headed down the lane to another legal deal. And the lawyers are going to lose the case. I wish you would make the lawyers, if they want a case, they have to pay if they lose. Because they lose all the time. They got Richard's coach, female, and they turn around and paid her $360,000 because they were wrong. Didn't even go to court. Other situation, $350,000 to special ed teachers. They fired 10 special ed teachers, and we paid them, offered them $3,000 each. 7 of them took the $3,000. The other 3 said no. Excuse me, they took $7,000. Counter offer was $7,000. We got $7,000 each. And then the teacher, these attorneys from the suburbs said, she'll never win this case. Got $350,000. That's how much they didn't know about the legal system and schools, and they're sitting out in the suburbs. The suburbs of Chicago taking millions of dollars and get nothing for it. Get local attorneys. They're here. We need to circulate the money in Peoria. Thank you.
Well, some of it's going to sound repetitive, and I'm trying not to do that. I went to Woodruff, I mentioned that earlier, and we closed Woodruff. And really, other than this is Ross, I don't think anybody else was around for that. Maybe I could be wrong, other than maybe living in the city. tear the building up. Well, that obviously never happened, and we have some great programs over there. It is not about the programs that are in the building. It's about that building. Why did we make such a big deal that we're going to save all this money by shuttering it up, using his words, but that never happened. So I'm still confused why we even voted to close the high school. You know, people like Mr. Knapp, I've lived here my whole time, and I just don't get it when everybody says, well, you can't mix Central and Woodruff kids. You can't mix manual and, well, it looks like it might have been better to leave Woodruff open. Who knows? You know, I'm not going to blame it on that, but I do one thing, trying to save money. Now, the other thing is, until Mr. Knapp told me about how many cabinet members don't live in town, that's shameful. You're not in town, you're not buying into this town. Like I said, I don't know how many times my wife and I go to McDonald's and there's a student. You know how fun that is for both of us, the student and us. Well, you're going, seeing the Morton kids or the Germantown Hill kids, those aren't our kids. Our kids are right here. My wife goes to the JFL games as much as she can, because we live right here. We go watch the kids play. I mean, they should be everybody should be in Peoria. Now, anything on Quest, we go on about Quest. We're talking about saving money. This is the budget meeting. Quest, we got this game changers thing, which I elaborated on earlier. That the cost of that is astronomical in comparison to who should be doing it, which is teachers, like at our contemporary school. And when I mentioned the safe school, we also had a contemporary school. They were housed together in Woodruff. But if we want to really save money, we've got to look at the cabinet, which is very high price. I don't know how that compares throughout the state. I don't do that stuff. That just bores me to death. But I do know, I know every salary they get. And for what they provide for educational purposes, it sounds like to me it's busy work for teachers. It's what it sounds like. Some of these programs, come on. So if we eliminate that, I really believe Dr. Garrett was one good person with a good run this district. I really believe that. I think she knows what she's doing. She doesn't need, and sometimes it's the old story. I coach basketball and I had one top assistant. That's who I talk to. Mr. Knapp knows this. You have other assistants, but they don't really figure in the decision making. And I think sometimes the cabinet makes decisions that I'm not sure Dr. Garrett loves, but that might have to say what we got to do. So anyway, that's where a ton of money goes, and we're trying to fix our budget. We got Woodruff open. I don't know at what capacity it's running. I really don't. I don't know what the silicone bill is or any of that stuff. I'm not informed like that. I got my own issues. I stick with teachers, but it's still open. It's still running. There's people go in and out of that building all day. So I'm sure that the price tag's got to be high. So I don't know. I didn't want to see Woodruff closed, but if it was about money, we need to save money. Why wasn't it closed completely? I don't have the answer. And then we got other schools closed throughout the district. I don't know what the best way is. I don't see the numbers. Every year it seems like we have a budget meeting and talk, and it's the same story. It's the same thing over and over. We're top heavy here. We're top heavy there. I remember the days back when you had a superintendent and an assistant superintendent. That's all they had. Yeah, you had teachers that would get pulled up to the castle in Wisconsin and talk a little bit. That's where they got information from. Now you got these expensive cabinets that provide what they can. I'm not sure what they provide. I know what they do provide, a big paycheck. They get that big time. And for what is my question. I just hope in the future, I don't know, nothing can be done quickly, I get that, but you got to look at what's best for your students. It's all parents. Figure out a way to use the teachers to create, and you can eliminate a big debt there by just cutting down on that enormous cabinet.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. That concludes our budget hearing. Moving along to patients by audience. We have Ms. Denali Craig Edwards.
I'm Denali Craig Evans from Peoria High School. I'm a junior. And I'm supposed to be addressing what happened Friday. Told someone was supposed to ask me questions, but you want me to elaborate?
I'm sorry, you said questions?
Yeah, I was told someone was supposed to ask me questions about it, but you want me to elaborate?
Do you have any topic would you like to speak on? Situation?
Well, a lot of people, they say that Peoria High School, a lot of people have called us like animals about the situation, and I don't think that that's fair, because only about 20 to 30 students were involved in all that. And for all of Peoria High to get that reputation, it's unfair. So I believe that as a student body and as all the teachers in the facility, we need to come together as one, even everyone throughout the district, because we are supposed to be the pride of the student. And without everyone coming together, then that's not possible. So I believe we all need to come together and do what we're supposed to do so we can fix what happened. That's right, because that is not a true pride of the student.
I appreciate you sharing that and coming to the podium to discuss that. Our next speaker tonight, our final speaker, will be Mrs. Kim Thomas.
I'm Kim Thomas. I'm an Illinois State Teacher of the Year. This is my 10 times 2 plus square root of 81 year teaching in Peoria Public Schools. This has been my only home of teaching. I'm at Glen Oak. I teach the square root of 49 grade mathliciousness. I do want to thank Dr. Karat for her quick response about my new board. We got all these new teachers got new boards. I wasn't expecting one, and it's working, but some parts aren't. I do appreciate your quick response, same night response. I love times love teaching. I'm trying not to let the lowest morale ever in the history of me teaching here get to me. It's very difficult when I get emails with things for me to do that have absolute value of 0 to do with teaching. And also when I get messages from teachers that say, your upper admin tells teachers, oh, you can't do that, it's not a part of the curriculum. That is taking away from the creativity and joy of teaching. I wear this every day, and I change it up every day. And I have my kids figured out. Every single one of my kids who have been at school know what a square root is, and I haven't even taught them. It's because I wear it every day. This is not a part of the curriculum. Apply the operations to get that date, and then the reason you and math are so great. Hey, every day. And one day I forgot to wear, Miss Thomas, where's your headband? What? Like, they were like, where is it? Where is it? It's not a part of the curriculum. Not everything has to be a part of it. There are those things that make teachers who we are, and the joy and love of teaching, and I refuse to let anybody take it away from me. Teachers know best. We are with kids all day. I really would just, the trust isn't there for some reason. It's like the camera doesn't really respect or like teachers. That's just kind of how I feel. So they're coming up with things for us to do. And instead of being like the Thomas house on a Sunday is bear down, okay? And I know the Blair house isn't. I still love the Blairs. But we should be remarkable down. We should be this collaborative team that is here for kids. And please listen to the teachers who are with them all day long. We weren't even told, like, I was told at a meeting right before school started that my 10 times 9 minutes of block, how it was going to be. Half the day is going to be the book, the other half is going to be all these things that were purchased, which I consider IXL, some of those things, worksheets on a screen. I wasn't even asked, like we weren't even asked. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try to do this, but I am not a teacher who likes to put kids on a computer. I am a teacher who likes to teach. So I thought, okay, we'll try this IXL. Kids got on, of course, some of them couldn't because of some, I don't know what was going on. Anyway, the the next day, I had students go, are we going to get on that again? And I go, oh, you want to? No, you teach it better. I can understand it better when you're teaching me. Math moms, like, what? When we talked, what? We all talked about this? That is amazing that I would have kids say they'd rather, and every teacher, it's not me, teachers can teach better than these computer programs. Kids have been on computers way too long, meaning the person in front of them, and that is going to be me. Let's see, I just feel like elementary and middle school teachers get walked on, stepped on. Here we are with IOPs. I just got an email saying IOPs, which I don't even know what they are due Friday. Well, mine will not be done. They won't. And so I looked up an IOP online to read what it was. An individual learning plan, both a document and process that students use with support from school counselors, teachers, and parents to define their career goals and post-secondary plans. It's for high school. High school teachers don't do these. High school teachers don't have PLCs. They are printed here under their masks. It's not helping kids. It'd be different if I had to go into Schooler and if I actually, when I typed IXL, because the kid below 10 times 4%, that's what they're doing, would help. It doesn't. We already know what they're doing. To go in and make teachers do stuff that interventionists did, and you know who did the work of an interventionist before we hired an interventionist? The principal. The principal. I wonder how many principals would stay if you said, okay, you're writing all the IOPs for your school. None would come back. High school teachers would band together and not do it. I wish middle and elementary teachers would take a stand and say, it's not physically impossible. I mean, it is physically impossible for you to get this done. It's not a prep activity. For my prep, I'm going to prep for my math-o-lantern activity next week, where my kids are going to discover surface area. That is what preps are for. And it's burning out your teachers. I don't want to lose them real quick. I am presenting at an Illinois conference this weekend. And it's like the first time where I can't say, come to Peoria Public Schools and teach. Because I would hate it if they got here and they're like, this has nothing to do with teaching. Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? Please, it's so easy. And I know Dr. Crock can do this. Go back, please take a step back, think about what you're asking teachers to do. Because I can't get it done. It really isn't possible, and I just don't want to lose any more teachers. And like I said, I refuse to let that joy and love leave me. It's not going to happen. I'm going to do what's best for my kids, and I know I can sleep every night knowing I did what was best for them.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. We're going to now at item number 9, approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll? Yes. I'm sorry? Okay. Let us continue this motion, and then I have no problems if any other board member objects for 5 minutes to come to the podium. Can we finish this motion here? It's been moved and seconded. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costa? Mr. Claus? Mr. Rankin? Dr. Rankin? Mr. Shaw? Mrs. Ross? President Wilson?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
All right, would you please start the
Thank you very much. My name is Ann Kay, and I'm the mother of 2 students that go to Central. And I fear that they being unjustified, being mistreated at school. I have one that's being bullied at school, and nothing being done about it. I have one that's being either expelled out of nowhere, or got to virtual learning, or got to go to alternative school. She's a straight A student. You can pull her record up. She's never been in trouble, and I can't get no help from nobody to get my child back to school. Everybody's trying to tell me that ain't nothing they can do. She has to wait till January. It's not right. Due to the incident they have to be fight that had a central. They want to take it out. Not just my child, might be somebody else's child that's down the line. Just because she get into a fight when she's clearly on her cell phone, guys. Take her by here, drug to the lunchroom, I didn't want to spell her, and she didn't want to initiate fire. I can understand it. It's not right fair to her or to another to let come down the line. Okay, so I come bully them or hit them first and stuff. They got to protect themselves some type of way. And I just don't feel it's right. I can't understand it. I can't get no help from nobody. I've been to the school board today. They push me out the door like I ain't nothing. And I'm about to keep going. I'm tired. I had a daughter that was sexually harassed at school. The principal will tell my child, well, you really don't want your mom to call the police to you. You don't get nobody to jump you. You didn't go to college with all that education. It's not right. I'm tired of just doing my kids or any kid any type of way. It's not fair. You can't judge all kids alike. There are kids that that do want to run. Y'all got them there. They're not getting no help. And it's not right. I need help to get my child back to school where she belongs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pay. Dr. Brown.
Yep. So, Dr. Wilson, can you talk with the parent and see if you can get her information? Thank you, President Wilson.
Thank you, Ms. Pay. Item number 1 under information items, superintendent update.
Thank you, President Wilson. I would also like to thank Principal Daniels for her amazing hospitality here at Harrison Community Learning Center. As we can see, is a beautiful building, and it's so nice to see that Principal Daniels and her staff, particularly the custodial staff, they're keeping the building looking great. I love when I walk in and the floor is glaring and nice and shiny and new light. And so, again, thank you, Principal Daniels. I would also like to thank the parents who brought the kids, the 4th graders and the 6th graders, to perform for us. I was a little disheartened about some of them were not able to show up for some reason, but I wanted to thank the parents who were able to do that and bring the kids. As Mr. Knapp said, this will be an experience they'll never forget, and hopefully they'll continue to practice and get better and better. As our community struggles to understand and deal with some incredible, difficult challenges that we're experiencing as a city, it is our ability to remain positive, to remain calm, and to communicate effectively in the face of this continuous adversity that teaches us how to cope with what's going on. I believe, as our student from Peoria High mentioned, she's an amazing basketball player. Ms. Craig Edwards, thank you again for coming and just sharing your thoughts with us. I believe we have made positive strides forward when compared to last week and to the start of this week. I spent the last week at Peoria High every day, and I was just really impressed with all of the positive things that I saw and all of the young people. As you said, 1,300 students are doing the right thing. They're coming to learn, they're following rules, and I know you have 2 of your classmates as well joining you to provide support. So we do plan to continue that momentum as the year continues. Again, which I was really happy about last week, that the focus is on squarely back on learning. So thank you also for mentioning that. My team and I worked very closely with Principal Coleman. Also, we worked very closely with our security team and the Peoria Police Chief Ekavara to implement strategic measures, again, to ensure that our environment is safe and continues to remain safe. And so some of the things that we did, we added strategic placement of security and staff throughout the building. We talked about the cafeteria, adjusting the traffic flow during lunchtime and in the hallways, rerouting the students who really caused the disruption to either alternative or virtual learning options. Leadership is key in these moments, not only for Peoria Public Schools, but also for our city. And that's why I've been so heartened to see our Peoria High students act as leaders, as I referenced, and as you have seen, you've heard the Pride team speak tonight, really to stick up for their schools and to stick up for their peers. And the senior class of Peoria High, for example, had a 95% attendance last Monday. So the incident occurred on Friday, and on Monday, 95% of the students showed up. The seniors showed up and have continued to set the tone for the building in collaboration with their principal. So that's pretty amazing. And thank you for having confidence in what's happening in your building. It is also important, it's an important reminder that, disruptive actions do not represent the vast majority of our Peoria High students who have pride in themselves, they have pride in their school, they have pride in their learning. So as we continue, let's continue to amplify the message of positivity, of love, of implementing strategies to ensure that, our number one priority is really to ensure that our buildings are safe. And then open it up for learning, being able to, but we have to make sure our buildings are safe. And just as superintendent of Peoria Public Schools, I'll say that I feel very, very confident in all of the strategies that we've taken. As a result of what we experienced on Friday, and we really have, it's working. If we hear of anything, we're making adjustments. So we're working very, very hard. We're pivoting. We're making changes if we have to. I just wanted to thank the entire team, my cabinet, the entire staff at Peoria High, all the support that we're getting from the community and also from the police chief. That it really is going to take the entire village to wrap our arms around what's happening in our city. And again, in closing, schools, Peoria Public Schools is a microcosm of our community. And sometimes we have to spill over and we have to deal with it, and that's what we're doing, dealing with it with confidence and with strength and seriousness. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Barat. Item number 2, proposed expenditures over $2,500. Questions for Mr. Willis? Seeing none. Item number 3, report of requests under the Freedom of Information Act and the status of such requests. Dr. Barat.
Thank you, President Wilson. Since our board meeting on September 13th, we have received 2 new requests. There was one pending, noted on September 13th. It has been closed. So we have received 24 requests for this calendar year at a grand total of $1,200. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 4, salary compensation report. Ms. Willis?
That's a report that state law requires we do annually. Also, state law requires that we present that report to you prior to posting it on our website October 1. So it's included in your packet, informational section, just for your information reference. And if you have any questions on that before, by all means, give me a call. But by including it in tonight's agenda, satisfying state law, so that we can post that on our website by October 1.
Thank you, I appreciate it, Mr. Willis. We are now ready for the consent agenda. Vice President Ross.
Thank you. The consent agenda tonight consists of gifts to the school district. Year to date, $37,253.36. Just to highlight a few of the donations. We have donations valued at $95 from Emily Dawson for STEM kits for the life skills classroom at Markville. Donation valued at $880 from Emily Dawson, again, for reading programs for Markville. Donations valued at $18.99 from Emily Dawson for a student with visual impairment. Just to highlight just a couple more, Emily Dawson donated the value of $485 for basic classroom supplies and $573 were donated to choose recreational equipment for Markville. And also donated a value of $8,000 from various donors in memory of Brianna Wood of Harrison School. Payment of bills, payment of travel. Number 4, human resources report. 5, approval of an agreement between Ombudsman Program, Alternative Education Services, and that's an agreement also known as Chancellite and Peoria Public Schools to provide alternative school programming for primary K-4 students at the Peoria Public School, location. Number 8 is the budget resolution. And I'm reading 6, Number 6 is the budget resolution. Number 7 is the purchase of 4 used special needs wheelchair buses. And that is the entirety of the consent.
Thank you, Vice President Ross. Are there any items board members would like to pull for a separate vote? Seeing 2, Ms. Costa.
I would like to further clarification, item number 5.
5, thank you. Dr. Reinke. Is that same? Awesome. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda with the exception of item number 5? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda with the exception of item 5? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costa. Mr. Kloss. Mr. Murphy.
Aye.
Dr. Rankin. Mr. Shaw. Mrs. Ross. President Wilson.
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Can I get a motion and a second to discuss item number 5? It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Costa?
Yes. I have several questions in regards to the Chancellite program. I don't have a clear understanding yet as to what the day would look like for one of the students K-4. Whether or not the student is the program being held in the home school, and these questions need to be answered before I proceed further, because if so, this question needs to be answered first before I proceed.
Thank you, Ms. Costick. And what I'll do is also I'll call up Coach Booth to come up, but I'll start off. So it will be to serve at any given time 50 students, K through 4 primary students. in one location. And we talked about that location being a tree wing. And and the rationale being that there's a huge need for alternative supports for primary children. With that little brochure that I shared today with you, if you notice, there's some options for middle school, there are options for high school. We really don't have option for primary kids in terms of alternative options, yet it's a growing area. And so the program will be sort of open entry, open exit. It could really serve more than 50 kids, but 50 kids at any given time at one location. It will be personalized, there will be therapy involved, and coaching can add to that if you'd like to.
Okay, so I'll proceed with the rest of my questions with that. If it's going to be held at Tree Win, is that the school that the children report to in the mornings? Or do they report to their home school?
You broke up, I didn't hear the middle part of it.
If the program is being held at Tree Win, do the children that are going to participate in that program, do they report to their home school in the mornings, or do they report to Tree Win?
They will be transported to Tree Win. That will be their school until the ultimate goal is to prepare them with social emotional skills, get that skill level up, get the academic skill level up. Once they get there, grade level or very close to it, then they go back to their school. But in the meantime, that will be their school so that they can receive that intensive, personalized support that they need. We've seen with COVID, especially our primary students, they have probably taken the brunt of this, the brunt of not having the in-person instruction. And so the idea is really to accelerate and what Illinois State Board of Education classifies as peer learning, accelerate learning that's been disrupted by COVID. So it'll be a temporary placement.
Okay, again, on the same lines of that, if the children are being transported from their home school, I'm trying to wrap my arms around it. We have transportation issues now. What is that going to look like with transporting those children from the various schools in the district at a certain time and getting them to and from the chance-like location back to their home school in a timely manner that does not impair normal transportation schedules?
Thanks. So it's like transporting kids to Washington, transporting kids for IB, transporting kids for the fine arts. So we're talking about 50 kids, and they would be picked up not from their school, but from wherever they reside. Right, Coach?
Would you say that last part again?
They would be transported not from their school, but from their home. Just like they would be picked up, so they would go to that school. Just like we're transporting kids from wherever they are in the city to any special programs like Washington Gifted, IB, or even the Fine Arts program. Woodruff is a little different because they're being picked up from school.
How many hours are they in the Chancellor program?
Did you ask for the hours, Ms. Costa? Yeah, okay, thank you. Coach?
That will be the next step, once approved, is to customize a schedule that accommodates not only the students, but also things like the bus scheduling. But the total number of hours that they would serve each day is a minimum of 6 hours. There are some situations where their day will be minimized just based on their needs and their development. So some students, maybe kindergarten students who may not be ready for a full day, they may go half a day. There's also the as students are prepared to transition back to their home school, that they may do half the day with chance life and the other half day in their homeschool setting to get them acclimated as part of the transition piece as well.
The last question I have is in reference to at the end of the program with the children, and when they start to transition back to their home school. I know we spoke of this at our last board meeting. This question was asked, but I guess I need clarification on how the homeschool teachers are going to be trained as far as the Chance Life program so that they can continue with that in a like manner.
I see that happening in two different areas. One, and for the individual student that transitions back, they'll be transition back, plan, model how to implement the plan to meet the needs of the students in this transition back. So I see that as one way of a training based on individualized student, but also as a more global training for all of our primary students, receiving trauma training, receiving different trainings and interventions from not only our in-house staff, but also Chance Life staff, and also partnering with the Regional Office of Education. I'm in the process of partnering with them to create a trauma-informed plan for all of our staff, but specifically our K-4 staff, to provide training in supporting students that need that additional support at the classroom level. So I see it as two aspects: training all of our staff on how to work with students that are in trauma or need those developmental skills, but then specifically, students return back, how to work with this student. This is the work we did with them while they were at Chance Life. This is what we found that was helpful, and then we'll show you how to do it in the individualized classroom.
Emphasize it as well. Being a primary principal, we had articulation meetings with our middle school, like my fourth graders who were going to Calvin Coolidge. We met regularly with the fifth grade teachers and planned together, see where they were. So that can also be incorporated that we use here, especially when they're transitioning from, at least my experience, from fourth grade to fifth grade and meeting with the groups, meeting and even planning throughout the year to prepare them for that, to prepare them to be acclimated back in their traditional environment.
The last thing that I have to say is that because of the fact that I know that we need a program of this type, and we need it now. It's one of the reasons that I will support it. However, my misgivings are that I wish we would have looked out a little further so that we have something else to compare this program to. So if we do this in the future, if we find a need for this type of a program, if we can just kind of expand our horizons and look further and see if there are other companies that offer this type of a program that may even be better suited for our kindergarten through fourth. Because right now, I know we've looked at this for maybe about a year and a half, and that a lot of that was COVID time. But I just like to see us kind of expand a little bit more, have people do a few more presentations to us so that we can see what it is that they have to offer and not be kind of forced to take on one just because we know we need it. Thank you.
So my understanding is that we're on the 3-tier system right now because of a lack of busing. My misunderstanding, or what I don't understand, is how we are going to miraculously find bus drivers in order to bus the students to Treeland when currently we are on a 3-tier system and a short schedule because of that. It's kind of disheartening to hear that hasn't kind of been thought through yet, and that's not presented tonight. I would hope that we would want to focus, while I understand first of all, I am not in favor of this. I said many things last time that I'm not in favor of. I think it is taking away the autonomy of teachers, taking away professionalism of teachers. I don't think that this is something that is going to be advantageous for our students, along with sustainability. Does not seem like it's going to be there. But for when you just had talked about busing and hadn't really thought through how that might happen, I am wondering, when is that going to be thought through? It sounds like after this is approved or not approved, that's when that's going to start happening. And I would hate for someone to come before the board in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or in a month or whatever it is and say, well, now we don't have buses for these students, so now we're going to change the program again. And so I'm wondering how we thought through the busing, because it's different than Washington students. Washington students are already figured into the equation. Students who are already being bused are already figured into the equation. These students are not yet figured into the equation. And so how is this going to impact, well, what our goal is as a district to get busing back to where it was so that we can provide education to all of the students in our district to the level that we once were, as in the longevity of the school day.
We have a specialized program that we propose, like chance like, I thought it would be premature to just put everything in place without first getting board approval. But I do think it will be a possibility to use the flexibility of the times that are available. So we know that our third tier school starts at 9:10. For one bus to be able to have a start time, and this is just a possibility. Like I said, this has not been, we have not made any things in stone at 9:30. To free up one bus driver to make this route for 50 students. It's my understanding that buses can house 50 students on those buses for a start time of 9:30 or later. We have that autonomy to go around the tier 3 schedule for one bus because that's when buses are available between that day whenever those 3-tier buildings are in school. Bus drivers are typically available during the time.
So if the students that are part of this program are not currently on the 3rd tier, their schedule would change to the 3rd tier. Or I guess I don't think all elementary schools are on the 3rd tier. I know that the early childhood is not, so I'm assuming so that would change their school day.
That's possible. These students would come from around the district, and those students could come already on different tiers. So we need to align all of those students on the same school schedule. So that's definitely possible.
The numbers are so small, 50, it's not going to make or break the 2nd tier plan that we have. I know our bus director and his team are very, very creative. I suspect some of these kids are already on routes already. So that is what transportation does. And that is their work. And we're talking about 50 kids that chances are on bus routes. So I don't know, if you're thinking chance slides, having chance slides and having the ability to be transported back and forth will somehow hamper or tamper with the plan that we're aspiring for the upcoming year around getting back on the 2-tier schedule. I don't think those numbers are normal and small. It won't have a dent.
I think there's a great chance that not all 50 students would be busing. With the placement of tree wing, I can imagine that students from tree wing will be utilizing the program. Students from right here at Harrison will likely find a benefit in the program. So there's, so I don't anticipate all 50 students needing transportation as well. But those that do, definitely will come up with a schedule to accommodate.
And this might be a misunderstanding that I had last time. My understanding was that it was for K1 students, but on this it says for K4. Was that just a misunderstanding I had? Is this for K4 students?
Yeah, I'm just going to
Okay. Okay. And then you were talking when Ms. Costick was asking you questions, you were talking about further trainings for teachers for when the students come back to their general education classrooms away from this program. Is part of this $650,000 Is that training embedded in this, or is that gonna be something that you'll be coming to the board later to ask for money to pay for training for the teachers that are then gonna be trauma informed, that are gonna be chance light informed, like with all of those different trainings, is that embedded, or is that gonna be something that comes down the pipe?
Training is a service that Chance Light provides, in addition to the Chance Light training, I also mentioned the ROE, a framework we're developing for Peoria Public Schools and charter training. So it's not just utilizing the Chance Light for continuing training, and then also that transition back to the classroom for students and training of teachers that are receiving students. That's all that it is called.
It's cost. And then one of the last things when you brought up that some students may not need busing, do you know the socioeconomic and racial makeup of students that you're thinking would fit into this? The reason I'm asking is because I would hate for us to fall back to practices that were 20, 30 years ago, even longer. I guess the 1980s was a lot longer than that. In the 1990s, where we do tracking and we have segregated programs. And so do you know the racial and economic makeup of the students that are going to be required, what you would deem as these 50 students who are going to need these services at Treatment?
It's very diverse. I mean, it's not isolated to Black kids or white kids or socioeconomic. Students that we see need supports come from across the district. There are more concentrated areas than others, but it's definitely not one focus on one area. I see the same concerns on the south side of Peoria as I do on our northern schools. So the process to select all 50 students would not be based on socioeconomic status or only based on demographics. It would be based on student development needs and academic needs to get them the supports they need. So I've never looked at it as this is going to be based on socioeconomic or demographics.
Right, and I guess I'm not saying it's going to be based on that, but I wonder if after you've done the developmental screenings, if there is a commonality that would be racially based, socioeconomic based, something else based, and that we could think through a different way to address the needs of the students if it's going to be, we're pulling out a whole bunch of kids from Northmore, or we're pulling out a whole bunch of kids from Glen Oak, and we're putting them in Tree Wind to get these services. Have you done an analysis yet, or like have a list in your head on a piece of paper of these 50 students? And not, once you've done the developmental screening, then I mean, that's part of school system. You look at the racial and economic makeup and the gender makeup. Is it mostly girls? Is it mostly boys? Is it mostly white kids? Is it mostly children of color? Like, have you been able to see that?
We're gonna serve the kids.
Right now, I have a spreadsheet of student names and concerns. Definitely would be easy to get male or female, white or black, social demographics, socioeconomic demographics. But with these preliminary, for me and for Peoria schools, it's about the need. We can definitely compile the social demographics of the students that are in these services. Absolutely.
We're not doing that for our specialty programs. I mean, if the board wants us to move in that direction, there are a couple of programs that I can think of right now that, you know, we know what those outcomes are. So for us, it's finding out, providing supports for the kids and looking at where they are developmentally, as Coach said, academically, and giving them a fighting chance, providing that individualized support to them, get them ready so that they can be transitioned back into their regular school.
Ms. Ross.
Thank you, Coach. Personally, I would like to focus on basically some years back, you probably remember when we got the Boys of Color screening. We focused on boys of color because they earned it. And I mean, I like the focus. I think we have to do that and work for the needs of our children. And so, although I am going to support the Chance Light, I'm going to be looking for, as I said before, I'm going to be looking for the results and, you know, the statistics on where we are now with each young people. But I hope we get to a point where we can specialize in education for certain kids that need it and focus really on what they need instead of what's popular.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Is there any other discussion on item number 5? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costa. Mr. Ross. Mr. Rankin. Dr. Rankin. Mr. Shaw. Mrs. Ross. President Wilson.
Aye.
We have 2 nays, 5 ayes, and motion carries.
Thank you. Deliberation agenda, item number 8, policy 7:320, service animals on school premises for assistance of students. Is there a motion to accept item number 8? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on item number 8? Ms. Ross?
I want to be sure that the service animals, we get to, I mean, districts get to choose what the service animal is. There are some service animals, some things we can call service animals, they include pages. So if we get to choose those, right?
Yeah, thank you. Great question, Ms. Rose. It's my understanding that they're really dogs, right? For the time being, that has been my experience, even as a principal, primary, middle, and high, the service animals that it's really dogs.
This will just bring us in line with state and federal law, so, it does not specify, you know, you have to read state federal law in order to figure out which animal, but I don't think somebody will bring in like a support letter or something, you know, so I don't think.
Well, you never know.
Our experience has just been dogs only.
Thank you, Dr. Karat. Any further discussion on item number 8? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costa. Mr. Ross. Mr. Rankin. Dr. Rankin. Mr. Shaw. Mrs. Ross. President Wilson.
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Item number 9, we'll be reading today.
Item number 9, we are presenting as read for suspension, review, and appeal. Very little thing, is that? The proposed action that the Board of Education approves suspension, review, appeal listed on the report dated September 27th, 2021 be approved as presented. Is there a motion? I make a motion. Is there a second?
It's been moved and seconded, Madam Secretary.
Mrs. Costa. Mr. Ross. Mr. Rankin. Dr. Rankin. Mr. Shaw. Mrs. Ross. President Wilson.
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Item number 10.
Item number 10, expulsion with the expulsion to be held in abeyance. Proposed action that the Board of Education approve expulsion with the expulsion held in abeyance listed on the report dated September 27th, 2021 be approved as presented. So moved.
Been moved and seconded, Madam Secretary.
Mrs. Costa. Mr. Ross. Mr. Rankin. Dr. Rankin. Mr. Shaw. Mrs. Ross. President Wilson.
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. Up next, we have presentation and suggestions by board members. Ms. Ross.
First of all, I'd like to ask our student board member to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Sophia Suarez. I am from Richmond High School. I am president of Educators Rising and co-founder and co-president of Podcast Club, and I'm also a member of the tennis team.
Senator Lloyd, House of Representatives, 102nd General Assembly. Can you get it on? Yeah. Hello? Is that better? Whereas the members of the Illinois House of Representatives wish to congratulate Gregory Wilson on being elected president of the Peoria Public School Board of Education. And whereas Gregory Wilson joined the Board of Education in 2017 and is excited by and grateful for the support of his fellow board members. And whereas the father of 5, 3 of whom are Peoria Public School students, Gregory Wilson is motivated by a desire to take care of all students in the district and make sure they have all the tools to be successful. And whereas one of Gregory Wilson's major goals is to broaden communication between the board and the students and their families, he also wants to ensure the board is consistently re-imaging education and bringing innovation themes to the district. Therefore, be it resolved that the House of Representatives of the 102nd General Assembly of the State of Illinois, that we congratulate Gregory Wilson on being elected president of the Peoria Public School Board of Education, and we wish him many successful years. And be it further resolved that a suitable copy of the resolution be presented to Gregory Wilson as a symbol of our respect and our esteem.
Thank you. Very surprised and now more nervous now. Definitely a major. I definitely appreciate you reading that. I'm going to continue to be passionate about educating our children, all of our children. Continue to be fair and fight for what's right. I'm not perfect, but I never said I was. But I think I'm perfect for this position to lead this district and take it to where it needs to get to. So I thank every board member here, everyone out there, from admin and Dr. Rod. Let's continue to do some great work. Thank you to State Representative John Gordon as well for submitting that. Is there any other presentations and suggestions by board members? Dr. Annie Reinke?
First I've been asked to announce that the Peoria Playhouse is having there be anything innovative program that propels Take Your Child to Work Day to a whole new level. It starts on October 2nd and it goes through October 9th. Additionally, Mike Murphy and myself would like to update everyone on what's happening with the Parent Teacher Advisory Committee. I will post it. We will make sure this presentation is posted since we don't have anything to present with today, but we did want to update you on the Parent Teacher Advisory Committee. We have a group of many community members, parents, city council, people, attorneys, teachers, board members. I'm going to read all of their names now, and then I'm going to let you know what we have planned between now and December. The Parent Teacher Advisory Committee is focused on discipline and looking at Section 7 of the policies within the district. And so the committee members are myself and Mike Murphy from the board, Demario Boone, Hetty Elliott, Andre Allen, Alice Jackson, Linda Wilson, Ashley Whitlack, Latch, Chris McCall, Angela Jones, Shama St. Louis, I saw you look at me, Shama St. Louis, Joanna Christensen, Emily Lee, Giovanna Bear, Megan Moody, Corrine Williams Walker, Kim Thomas, and Julie Craighead. So we have a big board, a big committee, but we are working, as I said, on focusing on the policies of under Section 7. The first things that we will be doing is looking at policies that are outdated, and we will be passing them on to the policy committee, specifically 750, which still has the wording of Edison schools in it. The last it was updated was in 2009, so we will be updating that, as well as 765, which still talks about No Child Left Behind. We will be updating that to ESSA, since ESSA came into consideration in 2015. And then we will be following up with a missing policy. At our next meeting, which is in October at 7:15 a.m., and we had all committee members show up at 7:15 a.m., we are going to be focusing specifically on 4 policies, 7190, 7200, 7210, and 7220, which focus specifically on student discipline, suspension, expulsion, and then bus conduct. In round 2, we've kind of broken them out in rounds. We're going to be focusing on school uniforms, which was a recommendation from one of our committee members, making them gender neutral and thinking about how to make them gender neutral, as well as some attendance policies and some other policies around misconduct. If you have any questions about any of the work that we're doing with the Parent Teacher Advisory Committee, please feel free to reach out to myself or Mike Murphy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reinking.
I did have one, just presentation, real quick. I'm going to be doing a book drive. It's called Mind Over Matter Book Drive. It's to help get books to our young men and women in custody at the Juvenile Detention Center. I had the opportunity to tour the JDC and noticed that the library contained older and worn-out books. Furthermore, many of the books in the facility lack substance. Instead, I ran across numerous Harry Potter books, but I didn't see anything that could shift the mindset of our young people, kind of open that third eye. So I've been fortunate enough to partner with 19 Turkians starting September 2nd. I've received at least over 300 books so far. The next phase of that book drive will be to engage the community to get books that can really kind of change the lives of these young adults that we have in these facilities. So if anyone here would like to donate any books, one of our drop-off sites would be Peoria Public School Admin Building. And I'll be putting out flyers and stuff everywhere as well. So if you can get that word out, that'd be great. Thank you. Any other presentations or suggestions by board members? Mr. Mike Murphy.
Hear me? 3 things real quick. I want to mention that the Peoria Public School Foundation's event, the Wine and Whiskey Walk that happens at Junction City, will be taking place on Saturday, October 16th. If you visit ppsfoundation.org, you can get more information on how to purchase tickets or to help sign up to volunteer. We still need several volunteers to help us set up and in some of the different stations to help pour some wine and whiskey. So it'll be a great event that's coming up on Saturday, October 16th. Look It's My Book has expanded to include pre-K distributions, and I'm excited to announce that we're going to be starting those at Valeska Hinton come November this year. So where we've always focused on giving school-age children K through 4 new books 6 times a year, we are taking over now in the pre-K area, and we're starting that program at Valeska Hinton, and we're excited to see that partnership start. And then last, as you know, I've been plugging and doing a lot of work on getting the water bottle fillers in the schools. We have those stations in the schools, and now we're finding that there's a need to get some water bottles. EFT president Jeff Agnes-Dutro reached out and said some of the schools, school kids don't have the reusable bottles. I reached out to Illinois American Water, and they very graciously dropped off 2,000 reusable water bottles to my house this morning. I'm going to be working on getting those delivered to all of the schools starting this week. I reached out to Dr. Crush, reached out to building principals, and they pulled a number together of what their need is in each of the schools, so all the kids will have an option to get those reusable water bottles. Yeah, it was 2,000 reusable water bottles today.
you, Mike. Up next, we have reports from board committees. Any reports from board committees? Chase.
Policy will be October 20th at 3:30.
Thank you, sir.
The next disciplinary committee meeting will be held on Friday, October 22nd at 7:15 a.m.
Thank you.
Building committee meeting.
President Wilson, can I?
Dr.
One of the requests that I wanted to bring up, and I forgot until just now, is that I would like to request, when we had Quest come and talk to us, when we approved their next 2 or 3 years, we had indicated that we wanted them to come and report out to us quarterly, and that next quarter would be October. So I would like to request Quest to come and report out to us what they're doing sometime in one of our meetings in October, to keep that on the agenda for quarterly share outs of their academic progress, their fiscal progress, whatever that type of progress is. I would like to request that as a board member, please.
Thank you, Dr. Reinke. That was going to be next up too, so they were aware. Appreciate that. Is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you. So concludes the board meeting.